The drama surrounding Larry Holmes' storied career is not just a tale of triumphs, but a testament to a man who carved his legacy through grit, precision, and an unyielding will to prove himself against the greatest. At 75, the Easton Assassin stands as one of boxing's enduring titans. 75 professional fights, a chronicle of blood, bruises, and brilliance. With a record of 69 wins, 44 by knockout, and only 6 losses. Holmes outboxed legends like Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, and Evander Holyfield, holding the heavyweight crown for over 7 years. Yet, despite his monumental achievements, he's often overshadowed, labeled the underrated champion of a golden era. Now, as he celebrates his 75th birthday, Holmes has dropped a bombshell that rewrites the narrative of his toughest battle. It wasn't Iron Mike who delivered his only career knockout, but a forgotten warrior who pushed him to the brink like no other. This is the story of Larry Holmes, his rise from poverty to greatness, and the brutal defining fight against Ken Norton that tested his soul. Born on November 3, 1949, Cuthbert, Georgia, Larry Holmes grew up in a world of want. Of 12 children, his family scraped by on welfare, their poverty so stark that Holmes recalled the sting of collecting clothes from the Salvation Army. At 5, they moved to Easton, Pennsylvania, but hardship followed. His father, a gardener in Connecticut, rarely saw the family, leaving his mother Flossie to hold them together. "He didn't forsake us," she said. "He just didn't have anything to give." By 7th grade, Holmes dropped out, washing cars for $1 an hour, hauling rocks in a quarry, anything to ease his family's burden. The streets of Easton were no kinder, where he earned a reputation as a scrapper who took no nonsense. Those raw, chaotic brawls shaped a fighter who didn't just hit hard, he fought smart. At 18, he found boxing through the Eastern Police Athletic League, channeling his fury into discipline. Despite a late start, his amateur record of 1-9-3 showed promise, though Olympic dreams were dashed by losses in the 1972 trials. Undeterred, Holmes turned pro in 1973, earning $63 for his debut. Humble spark that ignited a legendary career. Holmes' early years in the pros were a crucible. From 1973 to 1975, he sparred with giants like Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, and Ernie Shavers, a grueling apprenticeship that forged his craft. Ali paid him $500 a week, even for days he didn't work. But the sessions were brutal. Frazier broke his rib. Ali swelled his eyes shut. Holmes refused medical care, determined to prove his toughness. "I held my own," he later said, a quiet confidence born from surviving the best. Those years weren't just about taking punches. They taught him precision, timing, and the art of the jab, a weapon that would become his signature. By 1978, Holmes was no longer a sparring partner, but a contender. His 27-0 record built on undercards of Ali's fights. Yet, skepticism lingered. Critics called him cautious, questioning his heart, dismissing his opponents as soft. Holmes answered with his fists, perfecting a jab that was less a punch than a surgical tool, controlling distance, disrupting rhythm, and setting up devastating rights. His style wasn't flashy, but it was a masterclass in efficiency, making him a nightmare to face. On June 9, 1978, Holmes stepped into the spotlight at Caesar's Palace, facing Ken Norton for the WBC heavyweight title. Norton, 34, was a battle-hardened champion, his controversial belt earned when Leon Spinks chose a lucrative Ali rematch over a mandatory defense. Known as the Jawbreaker for breaking Ali's jaw in 1973, Norton's awkward cross-arm guard and relentless pressure made him a stylistic puzzle. At 28, Holmes was the underdog, a 6-5 betting outsider despite his perfect record. The fight carried. Personal heat, Norton's arrogance, and a pre-fight shoving match fueled Holmes' fire. "Norton's too old," Holmes declared. "I'll outbox him." From the opening bell, he did just that, his jab snapping like a whip, keeping Norton at bay. Early rounds showcased Holmes' brilliance, his footwork and precision building a lead. But Norton, urged by his corner, turned the tide by the 6th, charging forward with heavy hooks and body shots. Holmes, nursing a torn bicep from training, began to tire, his lip cut, his legs heavy. The fight became a war, each man trading blows in a brutal dance of wills. The 15th round of Holmes Norton is boxing lore, a toe-to-toe slugfest that left fans breathless. Both men, exhausted, dug deep, knowing the title hung in the balance. Holmes, fueled by sheer resolve, landed stinging jabs and rights, while Norton trapped him on the ropes, unloading punishing combinations. The crowd roared as they exchanged blows, neither willing to yield. When the bell rang, the outcome was uncertain, the scorecards razor-thin. Two judges gave it to Holmes, 143 to 142. The third scored it the same for Norton. The split decision crowned Holmes champion, but the fight's intensity left a lasting mark. "Kenny Norton was my toughest opponent," Holmes later said, dismissing the Tyson knockout as a product of his own poor conditioning. Norton's awkward style, relentless pressure, and heart forced Holmes to fight through pain and fatigue, testing his limits in a way Tyson's raw power never did. Holmes' reign as champion spanned 7 years, with 20 title defenses against fearsome foes like Ernie Shavers, whose punches hit like lightning, and Jerry Cooney, whose 1982 fight was marred by racial tension and death threats. Holmes' 13th round stoppage of Cooney earned him $10 million. But little love from a crowd that saw him as less charismatic than Ali. His 1980 win over a faded Ali was bittersweet, leaving Holmes in tears, not triumph. In 1985, Michael Spinks ended his undefeated streak in a controversial decision, followed by another loss in their rematch. Yet it was the 1988 Tyson fight that defined Holmes for many. At 38, after 21 months of inactivity, he faced a 21-year-old Tyson at his peak, an 8-1 favorite with a terrifying 88% knockout rate. Holmes clinched and jabbed, showing flashes of his prime. But Tyson's fourth-round onslaught, 3 knockdowns, capped by a crushing right hook, stopped him cold. "I wasn't in shape," Holmes admitted. "Mike hit hard, but it was embarrassing because I didn't prepare right." For Holmes, the loss was less about Tyson's greatness than his own misstep. Ken Norton, the man Holmes calls his toughest test, was a warrior in his own right. Born in 1943 in Jacksonville, Illinois, Norton's 1973 upset over Ali, breaking his jaw as a 7-1 underdog, made him a legend. His awkward Hopalong Cassidy-style low left arm, high right, bobbing and weaving through even the best off balance. Norton's pressure and deceptive punches, like his overhand right, disrupted Holmes' rhythm, forcing him to adapt in ways no other opponent demanded. Awarded the WBC title in 1978. Norton faced criticism as a paper champion, but his performance against Holmes silenced doubters. Retiring in 1981 with a 4-7-1 record, Norton's legacy, like Holmes, endures. Cemented by his 1989 Hall of Fame induction, his trilogy with Ali remains iconic, but it was his war with Holmes that defined his grit. At 75, Larry Holmes looks back on a career that spanned 3 decades, battling giants in an era stacked with them. His jab, his resilience, his 20 title defenses mark him as one of boxing's greatest. Yet the spotlight often eluded him. Arthur Ashe called him the most underrated heavyweight champion, a quiet technician in a world craving charisma. His revelation about Norton over Tyson reframes his legacy, reminding us that a fighter's toughest battle isn't always the one fans remember. Holmes fought not just opponents but perceptions, proving his greatness through sheer longevity and skill. As he reflects, the question lingers. Has the Easton Assassin finally earned the respect he deserves, or does his story still linger in the shadows of louder legends? What's your take on Larry Holmes' incredible career and his claim that Ken Norton was his toughest foe? Does he deserve more recognition as one of boxing's all-time greats? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you're inspired by Holmes' journey, and subscribe for more epic boxing stories. Check out our next video on the forgotten fights that shaped the sport's golden era.